If you're watching this, chances are somebody told you you needed a penetration test or a pen test, and you're trying to figure out what that means. Or maybe you already know what it is, but you're not really convinced that it's important. My name is Jason Gillam with Secure Ideas, and I will address both of those questions within the next couple of minutes. First of all, what is a penetration test? If you ask a bunch of different penetration testers this question, you'll get a bunch of different answers. Hopefully there's some overlap on those. But for me, I like to think of it as an adversarial exercise that is focused on testing the security controls within a system. And that system could be a bunch of different things, right? It could be a network, it could be an application, it could be a device. So there's many different types of penetration tests. Some of the most common ones are external penetration tests, where we are trying to test from outside of a network to can we get into that network. And then there is internal penetration tests, which is typically focused on a sort of compromised workstation type of scenario, right? So we assume that there was malware or phishing attack that succeeded and that the attacker got access to a workstation. Now, what can they do from there? What sort of risk is there? And then a third type of common pen test is a web application pen test, right? So in this case here, we are focused much more concentrated on the specific controls around a particular web application. Right. There are many other types out there as well. We have devices, we have Wi-Fi, we have physical pen tests, breaking into buildings, that sort of thing. And that reminds me of one very important point. What makes the difference between a penetration test and criminal activity is that a penetration test is done under a contract with specific rules of engagement, right? So it is something that the person being attacked or the organization being attacked has agreed to, and we've actually established, what are the ground rules for doing this? What are the things we can do and can't do in order to proceed and evaluate the security controls? Now, why is a penetration test so important? Well, there are other ways that you can do some level of evaluation within a system, right? So you can look at configurations and basically check all the boxes and make sure that, hey, did you set this up right? And you can also do things like run just a vulnerability scan against the system. A penetration test is important because it actually, to a much greater degree, it'll actually emulate what an attacker might be doing and thinking as they navigate their way from outside of the system, past the security controls, to inside the system, to whatever is valuable that is being protected. There are no automated ways of doing this end-to-end reliably. And so having people with that level of expertise, those problem-solving skills, the high technical competency to be able to go through those steps with you will really help evaluate the potential risk of your systems in a practical way, and also how to address any vulnerabilities that are in those systems.